On the one side tonight, these two gentlemen who I have with me on the Newshour tonight have been on two sides of this debate. First is the chairman of the Press Council of India, former Supreme Court Judge, Justice Markanday Katju. He's making his first appearance on the Newshour tonight. Justice Katju, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the Newshour this evening. And taking on Justice Markanday Katju on our first Newshour debate is Mahesh Jethmalani, who, if I may say so, has sent a stinging point-by-point rebuttal over the weekend of the arguments that were put forward by Justice Markanday Katju in his letter to the Governor of Maharashtra. Mahesh Jethmalani, I thank you as well for coming on this one-on-one debate. Gentlemen, with your permission, let's begin point by point. On the first point, Justice Katju, you say in your letter to the Governor of Maharashtra that the power of pardon under Article 161 of the Constitution is different from judicial power. The Governor can grant pardon or reduce the sentence of the court even if a minimum is prescribed. Mahesh Jethmalani responds to what you say by saying, Justice Katju, that the executive power of a state government does not extend to matters in the 7th schedule of the Constitution of India. Arms and ammunition is in the 7th schedule, and hence he questions your argument. May I have your response to him, please, Justice Katju?
Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani is totally wrong. The power which the governor exercises is a constitutional power, not just an ordinary executive power. Because Article 161 is in the Constitution. And Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani, being a lawyer, should be knowing that the constitutional provision cannot be controlled by ordinary statute. So therefore, the restriction in the Arms Act that you cannot give below 5 years sentence does not apply to the pardon power. It applies only to the judicial power. So therefore, Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani is absolutely incorrect.
Mr. Jethmalani, would you like to respond to Justice Katju, please?
Yes, I mean, the point is, Justice Katju has not read Article 162, obviously. Article 162 says that the power of pardon of the governor under Article 161 is coterminous with the executive power of the state. And Article 162 defines what is the executive power of the state. The executive power of the state being limited by matters which the state legislature alone is allowed to legislate on. If a particular subject is in the union list under the 7th schedule of the Constitution, i.e., it is a matter which can be legislated upon exclusively by the union government, then the state government and by parity of reasoning, the governor cannot grant a pardon on those matters. Now, as far as the union list is concerned, entry 5 of that list talks about arms, firearms, ammunition, and explosives. Those are all exclusively within the perspective, within the jurisdiction.
No, we are on a point of law.
Legislative powers of the Union of India.
Gentlemen, between a very
only on the union.
No. My question is, you are on a very fundamental, on a fundamental point. You are questioning Justice Katju, and you are saying to him that Justice Katju,
which is why I said that.
Yeah, go on.
Which is why I said that Justice Katju's entire letter has been dashed off in unseemly haste because it is in ignorance of the constitutional provision. Contrary to what Justice Katju is saying right now, I am not saying that the constitutional power of pardon under 161 of the governor can be curtailed by any statutory power. It is curtailed by 162 itself. It is prescribed by 162 and the union list.
Well, Mr. Jethmalani, I will get one response from Justice Katju, then we'll get on. Justice Katju, Mahesh Jethmalani says today the very basis of your letter is erroneous, and he is describing your letter as hastily put across. He says governor cannot grant pardon to Sanjay Dutt under the Arms Act. I'd like you to respond to that.
So, Mr. Mahesh, 1 minute. Therefore, Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani does not deny that there is power of pardon, if not in the governor, then with the president. I think he will concede. Supposing, let us for a moment assume that it is not the governor.
Yes.
All right, therefore the power of pardon is there. 1 minute, let's not go into technicalities. If the power of pardon is there, then all right, tomorrow I'll send a letter to the president if that pleases Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani. If that satisfies Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani, tomorrow I'll send another letter to the President of India. So that is not the point. The point is whether pardon should be granted in this case.
We're not here, please, we are not here to please one another. We are here to debate the provisions of law and whether a particular individual it applies to, and whether the action which you have taken is consonant with law. That's what we are debating about. There are only two issues. All right, let's go back to the presidential pardon now, and let's see what your argument is for granting him a pardon.
May I?
Without going through the entire record in the case.
May I, gentlemen, with your permission, between a very prominent lawyer, Mahesh Jethmalani, and the esteemed Justice Markandeya Kajju, may I come in with the second point? Justice Kajju, you say in your letter that Sanjay Dutt committed a lesser offence, and you say lesser offence than murder, and you say when the governor of Maharashtra granted pardon to Nanavati, surely he can grant pardon to Sanjay. The counter argument to that, Justice Kajju, is this is not just any illegal pistol that Sanjay Dutt acquired. They are deadly arms procured from hardened criminals and terrorists like Abu Salem, who are responsible for the 1993 blasts. And Sanjay Dutt himself confessed to having obtained the weapons as only due to the shoddy investigation, that it could not be established that the arms in Sanjay's possession were those smuggled in for the blast. So, are you trying to play it down, underplay Sanjay Dutt's role, Justice Kajju?
First of all, this statement of yours that shoddy investigation and all, it is all meaningless. Once the Supreme Court judgment has come that Sanjay Dutt was not involved in the bomb blast, then you are, Arnab Goswami is a Supreme Court. Above the Supreme Court, he says, oh no, he was involved, but it was because of shoddy investigation. What kind of statement are you making? Are you challenging the Supreme Court verdict? In which case, you should go and apply for review before the Supreme Court. You have to accept the Supreme Court verdict that he is not involved in the bomb blast. Yes, the Supreme Court said he had in his possession prohibited weapon and therefore he must be sentenced for 5 years imprisonment. To that extent, the judicial verdict is correct. We are now not on the judicial side, we are on the constitutional pardoning provision.
Yes, we are.
See, in the constitutional pardoning provision, there is scope for humanitarian considerations. He has not been found to be a terrorist. Now, humanitarian considerations are, he has already, it is not that he is getting away scot-free if he is pardoned. He can't get away scot-free because he has served 18 months jail.
Allow me, Justice Kajju. Allow me, Justice Kajju, one point that I was making to you is a limited point. First point I made to you was that this was not any illegal pistol that he acquired. You know, Justice Kajju, that these are deadly arms procured from hardened terrorists like Abu Salem, and Sanjay Dutt has admitted he met Anis Ibrahim while he confessed, although he later retracted the confession. He has confessed all this.
Listen, this is true. He was found in possession of an automatic rifle, not an ordinary gun.
Yes.
This is correct, and therefore this is a more serious offence than being in possession of an ordinary gun. And for this is known as a prohibited weapon, an automatic rifle, for which the minimum sentence is 5 years. This is true, and the Supreme Court judgment therefore is the correct judgment.
So then
I'm not questioning the Supreme Court judgment.
No, you
are now. Let me complete. I'm on the question of whether he should be granted pardon or not.
Yes.
See, for pardon, the considerations are different from the judicial considerations.
I'd like to question.
Pardon proceedings are not judicial proceedings. Now, he has already suffered, 18 months in jail. Then for 5-6 years, it took him to restore his career because he was ostracized, he was socially boycotted by society. No producer would approach him.
No, Justice Kajju, I want to question you point by point on some of those issues, if you permit. Because on your first point, because many people are saying today that, okay, let me actually get in Mahesh Jethmalani. Many people are saying today, and Justice Kajju, that why is Justice Kajju's heart melting for Sanjay Dutt?
You should ask me that question.
No, I will ask you.
that question. It's my heart, not Mahesh Jethmalani's heart.
Justice Kajju, I will not just ask you.
My heart, my heart is my heart, not Mahesh Jethmalani's heart, which is melting.
No, I first want to ask.
See, I'll tell you, it is not. All right, he knows more about my heart.
I don't. I'm not in the least. I'd be worried. My question here is actually this. By the way, Justice Kajju, I'm going to get an award for being the first television anchor who's made you smile. And I know, and so you must give me an award after the show. My question is, Mahesh Jethmalani, do you feel that Justice Markandeya Katju is being unnecessarily sympathetic to Sanjay Dutt? You know his arguments. He suffered, he's been in jail, he has a family, etc., etc. I want your counter, please, before I go back to
let me tell you, Justice Katju, it's his, he is an extremely compassionate man. He's been a very liberal judge on the bench. So this is not, it is not out of character for Justice Katju. We all have the greatest respect for him when he was on the bench and even thereafter. But the point of the matter is, one thing he must ponder about, and far be it from me to pose questions to so eminent a gentleman. The one thing he must ponder about is, isn't he picking and choosing? Aren't there, when you have so many people convicted in the case, even the fact that you may know all about one person and your heart may bleed for him, don't you think it behoves a judge, an ex-judge even, to actually look at the circumstances of everybody else and see that by doing this, aren't you causing heartburn to those others and their family members who may be better placed than him?
That's true.
Why not make this a compendious exercise on his part and look at everybody's case and say, look, for instance, I know this case from close quarters, Judge, and one thing I can tell you, there's a much more deserving candidate whom I would support you for in any pardon. An old lady called Zebur Nisa.
That's right.
Got these arms without knowing why she got them. She got them for 3 days, and she was almost like a transit keeper of these arms. She's 70 years old today. Why don't you look at the whole case, examine it carefully, and then perhaps you would first pitch your case for others more deserving of mercy.
It's a direct question. Let him answer that. Let him answer that. Justice Katju, this is interesting. You say in your letter that, and I'm quoting your letter, you say a cloud is hovering over his head throughout, referring to Sanjay Dutt. Tell Mahesh Jethmalani and tell all Newshour viewers tonight, is Sanjay Dutt the only person who has had a cloud hovering over his head? Haven't people with similar offences other than Sanjay Dutt been convicted under TADA? Is it not true that Sebunisa Qazi, who is now 70 years old, her house was simply being used as a transit point to keep the arms which were meant for Sanjay Dutt? You don't argue for her, Justice Katju.
May I answer now?
Yeah.
May I answer? May I have your permission to speak?
Justice Katju, you may.
Goswami, may I have your permission to speak now?
Yes, Justice Katju.
Now listen then. So far as Zebun Nisa Qazi is concerned, yesterday I received by email some information, a plea on her behalf that I should also appeal for pardon for her. Yesterday I received it sometime late in the evening. I am considering that, and it is quite possible I will send an appeal for her also. I will send appeal for everybody about whom you can convince me. Tell Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani to give me details of even more people. I will send it. And let me tell you one thing. I am least impressed by this celebrity status. I made an appeal for Gopal Das, who was in 25 years in a Pakistani jail, and he was released on my appeal by the Pakistan president. I made an appeal for Sarabjit Singh. 4 letters I sent to the Pakistan president. He is not a celebrity.
Justice Katju.
Khalid Chishti was not a celebrity.
No,
I've been making appeals for so many non-celebrities. It makes no difference whether a person is celebrity or non-celebrity.
Justice Katju.
And so far as Zebun Nisa is concerned, yesterday yes.
No, Justice Katju, you say, 1 minute, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, sir. But there are, I would request you to ponder today whether there are some fundamental flaws in your argument. You say Sanjay Dutt has got married, he has 2 small children. Right? Now, there are many others. All the accused have families. Sanjay Dutt is not the only one. No, Sanjay Dutt is not the only one. Each and every one of the accused has served time in prison and nobody is asking for any clemency for them.
You send me details of others and I will consider it, and if I am satisfied that this is a case which deserves clemency, I will appeal for it. Please send me the details. You see, none of you are sending me any details except for Zebun Nisa I got yesterday by email. And now I am checking up in fact, if Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani can send me more details about Zebun Nisa Qazi, I would be very happy, because prima facie it seems to me that her case also deserves a pardon. Prima facie, but I want to examine it further. I'm trying to go through the judgment, and if Mr. Mahesh Jetmalani can help me about Zebun Nisa Qazi, I'd be grateful to him. Tell him immediately to send me all the details by speed post. I will.
No, so
it is.
Sir, but then
Yes,
the point is,
I may make an appeal for her also.
Sir, Justice Kaju, I can argue then.
Yes. What is the point?
I can argue then. The point is this, that it takes a celebrity to get Justice Markanday Kaju's attention.
No, Gopal Das was not a celebrity. Sarabjit Singh was not a celebrity. Khalid Chishti was not a celebrity. I have made appeals for so many non-celebrities. I have just now told you again and again. You are repeating the same thing. This allegation made against me since 2 days that you are Justice Kaju only appeals for celebrities.
Yeah.
This is not correct. I can give you dozens of examples of non-celebrities for whom I have issued appeals. That makes no difference to me whether you are a celebrity or non-celebrity.
Justice Kaju, joining the discussion right now is Majid Memon. Mahesh Jetmalani, it's you versus two gentlemen today on the Newshour tonight. The other argument that is being made by Justice Kaju is that he has not been held to be a terrorist. He had no hand in the bomb blast. Mahesh Jetmalani, he may not have been held a terrorist, but it is worth observing what the Tada court held while sentencing Sanjay Dutt. Even for protecting father or family, you can take lawful steps. But if you take unlawful steps, it cannot be considered noble. I want your response to that one point, that he's not been held a terrorist, that Justice Kaju is putting forth.
I don't want to delve too deep into the merits, Arnab, because I have a slight conflict there. I appeared for Sanjay in the early stages, very early stages for bail. But now that the judgment is out, I think it behoves everybody. Who wants to, leap into this case and seek pardon for people to read the entire judgment, line by line, and really see if their conscience is satisfied.
Point out
Justice Kaju seems to be
point out a particular part to Majid Memon. I'll get him to respond. Let Majid Memon respond. What is the point which you would like Majid Memon, for example, to ponder over?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the arms were received. Yes.
Let Mahesh Jetmalani complete and then I'll come back to you. Yes, go ahead. Complete, Mr. Jetmalani. After that, I'm coming to you, Majid Memon. This discussion is getting very interesting tonight. Yes.
Look, the arms were received by Sanjay Dutt as per the confessional statements of Sameer Hingora and Hanif Kadawala. The arms were received by him from them at the instance of Anis Ibrahim, who claims that he spoke to Sanju and told Sanjay Dutt that the arms would be coming to him, courtesy these people, and that is why they delivered it to him. Now, Sanjay Dutt was a convenient distribution point because his father's MP bungalow, his father's bungalow in Bombay, happened to be an excellent camouflage and an excellent cover. Now, you can take a charitable view and say, Sanjay said, okay, bring these guns and then let them go from there, and I want to keep one and all that. But I mean, surely knowing the nature of these people, and the quality of the weapons that were coming, and there were hand grenades, for God's sake. So, all this is now past history. The judgment has declared him not to be a terrorist, and everybody must accept that. But Justice Kaju must remember one thing, that in pardon proceedings, if the pardon proceedings are opened up, the pardoning authority, whether it's the governor or the president, in this case, in my respectful submission, the president, he's entitled to examine everything afresh, look at it with a fresh eye. He's not bound to look at it by the rules of admissibility of which the trial court and the Supreme Court went in. He can even ponder as to why the CBI did not appeal against the Tada charge. The entire field is open to him. And it is quite possible that others may jump into the fray and point out lacunae in the investigation, in the prosecution, in the trial judge's approach.
It's a legal point. It's a sharp legal point
I believe,
put
even
forth.
From Sanjay Dutt's point of
Mahesh Jetmalani argues today the governor can look at things afresh. Justice Kaju, I have to ask you a couple of questions on what else you've written in your letter, but I'd first like Majid Memon to respond to that one point that has been made by Mahesh Jetmalani. Mr. Memon, please.
See, if it was some politician or some other person, I would not have been surprised. But I am hearing it from a friend who has quite a good experience as a lawyer himself. let us not misinform our audience that what is the position in law. You see, today saying that the police allegations are like this, the confession says this, or the investigation was not proper, or the CBI did not appeal, are all matters which have already been considered by the trial court and again by the Honorable Supreme Court. Now, was it not proper for the Supreme Court in its own wisdom or in its judicial sense to pull up CBI for not having appealed, or for considering the ignorance of the trial court in not taking into consideration what is so grave about which Mr. Jethmalani is saying at the top of his voice? So therefore, you know, we are not questioning the wisdom of Supreme Court when the Supreme Court thought that all this notwithstanding, we proclaim that Sanjay Dutt is not guilty of any provisions of TADA, as also there is no material which is the finding of the trial court that Sanjay Dutt has nothing to do with those 13 blasts. Now, do we question the wisdom and the judicial sense of Supreme Court by going back again to police papers and say that,
one second.
You see, look at the fact that Sunil Dutt's
Mr. Jethmalani wants to counter you, sir.
Anis came and this fellow, please don't talk like that. Don't
one second. I find this interesting here. 1 minute. I find this a classic situation. A former Supreme Court judge, right in the middle of a debate between two eminent lawyers from Mumbai. Justice Kajju, coming back to you, but I must allow the counter. Yes, Mahesh Jethmalani.
Mr. Majid Memon has put words into my mouth and then expressed surprise at the quality of my arguments. That's wholly unfair. What I've said is, you must accept the verdict as it is, but when the governor or the president exercise their pardon powers under the Constitution, it is open to them to set aside all these technicalities and go into the real facts of the matter as he sees it, as they see it. So they are not hidebound by the technicalities which I am hidebound by, or Justice Kajju is hidebound by, or Mr. Majid Memon is so keen to proclaim.
Yeah, please permit me. Mahesh, you said this now, but in your earlier opportunity when you spoke for some time, I heard every word. You were telling Mr. Justice Markanday,
no, I didn't.
Why are you appealing for a person who has this and that, etc.? I have heard you that. You are on record. We can replay
I didn't say that.
You said it earlier, therefore I am telling you.
No, you can replay the whole thing.
It now
you are quite wrong, Mr. Majid Memon.
Mr. Governor can still see the paper.
Well, gentlemen,
please, Mr.
may I come in?
Mr. Mahesh, you have told Markanday Kajju earlier that you have appealed, you know that this boy had taken this from Abu Salem and this and all that, and therefore that cannot be, and then CBI did not appeal.
Well, that's a fact.
Which have been set to rest finally judicially. Now you have rightly. I appreciate what you said later. Now what you are saying now that the governor may have powers to open up all this and also pull up CBI for not having appeal. I'm not finding fault with your later submissions. But what you said earlier needed to be corrected. That's what I'm saying.
But Majid, sorry, I don't need your correction with all due respect, because you missed a very vital part of my statement. I said we had to accept the trial court and the Supreme Court's verdict that he is not a terrorist. If you had heard that, you perhaps wouldn't have used these little arguments, which I didn't make.
Gentlemen, 1 minute, gentlemen, contemporary history. 1 second, gentlemen, may I make one point?
Anyway, I don't want to get bogged down in your business.
We are getting caught.
Then there's no dispute.
Gentlemen, if
me, us and you.
Gentlemen,
I said it is not final if there's a pardon.
Majid Memon and Mahesh Jethmalani, you know, your friendship blossoms on the Newshour tonight. On the 13th of June 2006, the TADA court accepted that the CBI's request to delink Abu Salem's trial from the main blast case. The reason that was offered at this stage was that he did not want to delay the verdict anymore. This delinking worked to Sanjay Dutt's advantage. He is not planned it out, but it has worked to his advantage. My question, I go back to Justice Kajju's controversial letter to the Governor of Maharashtra. In that letter, Justice Kajju writes, my next question goes back to Justice Markanday Kajju. You write, sir, that his parents Sunil Dutt and Nargis worked for the good of society and the nation. Sunil Dutt and Nargis often went to border areas to give moral support to our brave Jawans and did other social work for society. My counter question to you, sir, is most of the accused come from poor, underprivileged families. They don't have film stars as parents. They are not rich, influential or famous parents. So I can argue that they had no means to perform charity. So effectively, they are being punished for their lack of wherewithal. Why should they be punished for their lack of wherewithal, Justice Kutch?
See, that those were incidental reasons I gave. That those were not the main reasons for on which I appealed for pardon. The main reason was that he has already undergone the punishment. You see, I can understand that if Sanjay Dutt had not spent a day in jail, if Sanjay Dutt had not faced so many difficulties and so much harassment for 20 years, then I would have said yes, he must be punished. But he has undergone the punishment in different ways. He may not have spent 5 years in jail. He spent 18 months. But you can see what all he faced for 5-6 years. His career was blasted. He was ostracized. People branded him as a terrorist. He could not get bank loans. On pardon, the pardon provision is on humanitarian consideration. There are some humanitarian consideration also. He has been punished and he has not been found to be a terrorist, only in possession of an illegal weapon.
On this
yes,
point.
for that he should be punished, which he has been done. Now, see, do you want a pound of flesh like Shylock demanded?
No, sir.
Shylock demanded that I want a pound of flesh of Antonio. Or do you believe in Portia's speech that justice should be tempered with mercy? And I'm saying not mercy for Sanjay Dutt alone, for Zebun Nisa also. Probably I'll come to that conclusion. I'm examining it. Others, let Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani send me all details of others. Whomever he satisfies me, I will plead for him. I have pleaded for non-celebrities like Gopal Das and Sarabjit Singh and Khalil Chishti. Hundreds of others I have pleaded.
Kaju.
It has nothing to do with celebrity.
Justice
if
Kaju,
I am satisfied that humanitarian help required.
I'm not questioning.
Yes,
I'm not questioning your appropriate use of a quote of Merchant of Venice, and neither are we Antonio Bassanio's or Shylock's, Justice Kaju. But I want a response from Mahesh Jethmalani. Now I'm certainly going to get an award because I have made you smile for the second time on the Newshour tonight. Mahesh Jethmalani.
There are some Shylocks who demand a pound of flesh.
Sir, I am not a Shylock, I assure you, sir. My question here is to Mahesh Jethmalani. Mahesh Jethmalani, Justice Kaju says tonight that he's already served his term. Now, is that your response actually, is that you agree with that assessment?
Well, that links up with the inappositeness of the Portia and the Bassanio analogy, because Portia and all were making these pleas before the sentence was actually passed. In this case, the court has taken into, as much as Mr. Menon and Justice Kaju respect the Supreme Court decision, the Supreme Court has said that 5 years is the minimum. That the law says that no matter how long this trial takes, no matter what the humanitarian considerations, and I think Sanjay has a lot of humanitarian considerations in his favor, his 2 young children being the strongest amongst them all. But a lot of people have family members and people whose hearts burn and bleed for them. In this very case.
The last point.
That can't alone be a criteria.
The last point which he writes in his letter, though I know that Justice Kaju will say this is not one of my main points, it is one of his points, is the Munna Bhai point. And Majid Memon and Justice Markanday Kaju, Justice Kaju writes, Sanjay in his period of 20 years has, through his film, revived the memory of Mahatma Gandhi and his message of Gandhiji, the father of the nation. Now, that's a commercial film for which he was paid. Munna Bhai is not an act of charity that he has performed for the good of the nation. Besides, just because the others are not movie stars and they cannot be Munna Bhai, should they be sent to prison? I mean, this argument is a little... It's not whole... Okay, Majid Memon wants to defend you. Justice Kaju wants to... You want to be... Majid Memon has raised his hand there, yes.
See, Arnav, it is nobody's case. Please don't misunderstand or misinterpret the whole situation. It is neither Markanday Kaju nor mine or any like-minded person who is coming forward. Nobody's case is that, well, others who are not so privileged must not get justice, must not get this window. Nobody says so. You see, everybody is entitled. Sanjay, Justice Kaju has rightly pointed out that he has not been penalized. We are only saying that, well, 18 months he has spent in prison.
Yes.
3.5 years more if he goes back to prison probably. That would be
counter.
a little too much because he has had lot of suffering. This is what, it does not mean that Sanjay alone is entitled to this.
No, the counter,
there are
final
number
counter.
Of such cases which might come up.
Final counter coming in from Mahesh Jethmalani. Yes, Mahesh Jethmalani.
You know, I am surprised. The victims require some closing out in this matter. Nobody is worried about the 267 victims and their families, young ones, old ones, near ones, dear ones, who died on that day. And let me tell you something, a lot of them would not have died had it not... Yes, it's one minute. Majid, don't interrupt me. You've had your say.
How do you connect?
Because I'll tell you why. I will tell you why. Because there were grenades. 1 minute. There were grenades which were brought. That is an undeniable fact. Grenades were used in Machimar colony. Don't ignore that fact, Mr. Majid Menon. And let me also tell you one. Let me also tell you one more thing.
You are going out of the Supreme Court. Again, you are reverting to the same line.
1 minute. I'm not going out of the Supreme Court judgment at all. No, they have not considered what I said. Please don't
consider all what you want people to consider.
But no, they have not. Don't keep quoting that. Don't.
Politicians can do it.
No, please, Mr. Majid Menon, don't tell me. You please don't tell me what I have to do. All right, let me. And Majid, when I need to take my lesson,
I seriously object and say this would border on contempt of court. Please don't do that.
I object to your objections. All right, now let me just say this.
It's okay.
All right.
You are at liberty to object.
I seriously object to objections. Yeah. But don't filibuster me because I'm about to say something which might appeal to everybody.
Please don't.
What I say right now.
Don't try to arouse emotions by saying 257 people died, 730. Sanjay has nothing to do with that. That is what has been approved by the trial court and the Supreme Court as well. That is why we are forwarding. You should not argue that.
Just
all right. Now let me tell you. Let me give you the strongest sign of repentance today. The strongest sign. Everybody says Sanjay made a mistake. All right. Let's grant that he made a mistake. We all accept that. What was the mistake? The mistake was he kept bad company. He received arms from dubious characters. Even as late as 2002, Sanjay was in touch with people like Chota Shakil. Today he has a chance now, at this stage, Majid Menon, to make a clear, unambiguous statement that I repudiate Dawood Ibrahim and all his cronies, and I condemn that terrorist act of 1993 and every terrorist act which Dawood Ibrahim has since perpetrated. Please let him make that statement. That will be a first sign of genuine repentance.
No,
do you agree with me?
If you are suggesting that, see, Mr. Mahesh, I agree with you that if we are standing for a good cause, we want that this boy must not suffer further and he must take some corrective steps. I am entirely with you. There is no difficulty on that count at all. Because we are not here to just give him what is not due to him. For what reason? Why should we advocate something which is not due to him? We are also not doing that.
You are creating straw people. Let's all unite on one thing. That at least as a first step towards repentance, before anybody in this, amongst the three of us, or anybody in this country who claims to be a nationalist, let him at least first make this clear denunciation of his erstwhile friends.
Well, it's a strong point made. I think Sanjay,
I agree with you.
Sanjay Dutt is the best person to answer for it. And if we get a chance to speak to Sanjay Dutt, which I must say we have not, and most unfortunately, that's a question that should be put to him. Justice Kajju, you didn't answer I want you to answer that question. This Munna Bhai example, Justice Kajju, he also played Khalnayak in another movie.
देखिए मुन्ना भाई forget खलनायक. Let me tell you a Sanskrit shlok, because you are people are evidently ignorant of Sanskrit. Brahaspati shlok, kevalam shastram ashritya na kartavyo hi nirnaya युक्तहीने विचारे तु धर्महानि प्रजायते, which means कि धर्म की हानि हो जाएगी अगर युक्तिहीन होगा. टेक्निकली करेक्ट, केवलम शास्त्र, केवल यानी टेक्निकलिटीज ऑफ लॉ पे आप आश्रय करके फैसला देंगे तो फैसला तो हो जाएगा मगर वो युक्तिहीन हो जाएगा. यू हैव टू सी द इक्विटी एंगल ऑल्सो. सी It is on the judicial side, the judgment is correct. They could not give below 5-year sentence because that was the minimum prescribed by law. But that restriction does not apply to pardon proceeding. Here, you have to see the humanitarian aspect, the reformative aspect. This man has changed over the last 20 years. He is not the same man who was 20 years.
Well,
there's no allegation in these 20 years that he has done something wrong which he had done in his youth. He has changed, he's married, he's got children, he's undergone so much suffering. Now, therefore, a humanitarian approach should be taken.
Sure.
I appeal to everybody. I have no personal interest in Sanjay. Let me tell you one thing. He is not my relative, he is not my friend, he has nothing to do with me. On purely humanitarian ground, I am appealing for him, just as I appealed for Khalid Chishti, Gopal Das, Sarabjit Singh, purely humanitarian.
Yeah, but then, Justice Kaju,
I'm very happy to plead for them.
No, we'll debate this. We'll debate this further because the argument today, the debate is about whether preferential and special treatment is being sought for Sanjay Dutt. Then somebody will say tomorrow, we want similar leniency to...
I'm saying I just answered you.
No, I get your point.
I answered you
I get your point.
That Zebun Nasa Qazi's case has come to my notice. Other cases, Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani also may send me, and he may send me details about Zebun Nisa Qazi. I'm considering that. I may be sending an appeal for others also. It is nothing to do with celebrity.
Yes, but Justice Kaju...
Zebun Nisa Qazi is not a celebrity.
No, not Zebun Nisa Qazi.
Yes.
No, not Zebun Nisa Qazi. I'll take the debate forward, completely short of time. I've enjoyed this debate. The only point I'd say is that some people will say, why should similar leniency not be shown for Yusuf Nalwala, who simply helped Sanjay Dutt destroy the AK-56 and has been sent to 5-year imprisonment. You know, this discussion is detailed. We'll take it forward, but I've enjoyed this opportunity of chatting with Mahesh Jethmalani and Justice Kaju and Majid Mehman. There are different perspectives, and that's what we seek to do on the Newshour every night. Justice Kaju, Majid Mehman, and Mahesh Jethmalani. Thank you for joining me on Newshour debate number 1 tonight. Thank you, gentlemen.